Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to BMO Training Grounds for the introductory press conference of the Toronto FC news head coach. Before we start, we're gonna turn over to the Toronto FC president, Bill Manning, for the introduction, and then we're gonna go for the Q&A with the new coach. Kindly ask you to raise your hand and wait for the microphone for the question. And if you have a follow-up question, just raise your hand again, and we'll go back to you if we have more time.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Very, very important day today for Toronto FC. The introduction of a coach who needs no introduction with Canadian soccer fans. And we look forward to redefining a new chapter in Toronto FC's history. And so without any further ado, our new head coach, John Herdman.
Should be good. Well, it's finally came. Never thought I'd be leaving that maple leaf behind, but I guess swap it for a Toronto FC jersey is just a huge privilege, opportunity. Want to thank MLSE, Toronto FC, Bill Manning, Jason Hernandez. It is a privilege, and there's moments will come in your career where an opportunity comes up and it seems to hit the bullseye with, everything that you align to and what motivates you and drives you. And this was that opportunity. So I get the chance now with my staff to get on the grass every single day, work and develop players. That's been a bit of a dream of mine, and to be able to do it at a club of this stature is nothing but special. So I'd like to say a big thanks to everyone, and thanks for everyone for turning up today as well.
Hey, John.
Hey, Joe.
Congratulations. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to sort of triage the situation here at TFC, but if you have, what do you see as sort of your immediate goal? What do you think needs your immediate attention in terms of rebuilding this team to its former glory?
Yeah, I think that's a big question. I mean, I'll be kicking off on October the 1st, but, having worked with many of the Canadian players that have been in and out of this club, we know the size of this club, we know the potential of this club, we know what it means to the players like a Jonathan Osorio, and to bring it back to that glory of what we experienced with the Javinkos, and I think everyone knows what that felt like. That's the mission. It's to bring it back to win. That'll take a little bit of time. I'm hoping it doesn't take a great amount of time, but it will take some time. And for me, it's seek to understand before you're understood. We've really got to understand what it is going to take to evolve. But it's exciting, John. I think any coach in North America would have given a left arm, right arm to get this opportunity to work for this organization.
John, just back here.
Matt.
I did happen to ask you twice back in Qatar if you would be there with the men through the 2026 cycle. Clearly now you have other responsibilities. Was there ever any consideration given to doing both roles? And what's the messaging now to a men's team that believed in the messaging that you took to the top of qualifying here in CONCACAF and went to a World Cup, and now they face a lot of uncertainty?
Yeah, I think when you look at the cycle of my journey, 5 years with the New Zealand women's national team, 5 years with the Canadian women's national team, and 5 years with the men's national team, I think you go through these cycles as a coach. You get that feeling, coming out of Qatar, to take another 4 years with Canada. At that time you feel the motivation and the excitement of what you experienced there and the potential, but you also feel that there's another level to come from this team. It needs freshness, it needs a different voice. There's an element of that, but also the organization. I think the organization's undergoing a level of leadership change. And for me, this is the time. You feel that in your gut, you feel it in your heart, that there's a moment, it's time to step off and go and fulfill another dream. And that dream was to be on the grass with players day in, day out, developing people in the way that you haven't had that opportunity probably since we were in our residencies with the women's national team. And I think any coach, you know, they want to be working with players, with people consistently, because that's where you get the biggest improvements. So I think you've got to feel it, Matt. You've got to know when the right time is. And for me, that's aligned with what seemed like the bullseye opportunity here, you know, fitting my profile of, you know, transformational leadership, coming into an environment where you get a chance to change something.
John, on your left. Was it challenging at all? Did you have to wrestle with the idea of walking away from a job with security and the opportunity to coach in a World Cup at home? A lot of fans are scratching their head at this decision to walk away from 2026.
Yeah, I actually don't see it as walking away. I think, you know, I made a mission in my mind, in the country's mind, to qualify for Qatar 2022, which back in 2018 was unthinkable to a lot of people. I think when we sort of hit that target as a staff, as a group, you know that there's something being achieved here, that you've fulfilled something for the country. You've laid a foundation for its future success. And again, I think walking away gives an opportunity for someone else to come in and lift this team to another level. I think that's the exciting thing for the next coaching team coming through. And for me, again, you see this Toronto FC opportunity, the opportunity to be week in, week out at BMO Field, a stadium that has been very good to me and my staff, and some unbelievable memories there. To know that you can do that week in, week out, it's just a different challenge in life. I think our players are excited for us, given the conversations that we've had over the last 2 days. But at the same time, I think they understand this is the nature of football.
I'm just going to ask, I mean, you led the Canadian program to maybe the highest level it's ever been to with that World Cup in Qatar. And I'm just wondering, you talked about some of the changes that were happening with the leadership group. What specifically changed for you? I mean, after coming off, you know, that big moment, what changed for you that led you to the decision that it was time to go?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been a lot of things that changed when we qualified for the World Cup. You know, the whole realities of Canada soccer and the experiences there, which, you know, for nearly 12 years have been unbelievable. You know, I've had the privilege to work with Christine Sinclair, Tiba Hutchinson, precocious talents like Alphonso Davies, Jesse Fleming. And that's something that I'm going to hold and cherish as a memory. And, you know, I've been privileged to have that. You know, moving forward through these next 4 years, you know, deep down, it's been a battle. There's been a lot put in. I've given everything, literally everything. And my staff have as well. This is fresh. It's new. It's energetic. And we're ready. We're ready for change. You know that as a human being. You go through these processes in your cycle. You just feel it in your gut, in your heart, with your family. And, you know, I've had that feeling, you know, for a while. It's not something that's just crept up on us. I think the team has been changing, and, you know, things are progressing at Canada Soccer in ways, or, you know, changing there. That's, you know, for me, I need a different path now, and this is it, and I'm excited.
Hey, John. Abdul Hamid from Canadian Press. So
Before the Gold Cup, you talked about the chance to be able to develop, and you looked so excited for that chance to work with the young guys. Not exactly the similar situation, but you touched on development in your statement. How exciting is it for you to take on such a challenge and be able to start over and developing a new group and a new team with different guys?
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest motivations to come into Toronto FC and have that sort of impact. I think the resume outlines with the staff that I work with that we gravitate to this type of situation where there's a huge opportunity there. This is a massive club with a huge heritage, and we all believe that it will get there pretty soon. So, you know, coming into this setting is almost perfect for the experiences that we have. You know, working with the culture here to refocus, to reinvigorate, you know, not only the staff but the players to get to that next level. And that next level is there for Toronto FC. It's a club that we know can reach it. So everything's aligning now for us to, I think, take the right path in to get us ready for next season, to work with Jason Hernandez, Bill Manning, and players like Jonathan Osorio who know how we work and know how we can impact this club because he's experienced it.
Hey John, Gilbert from Toronto Star here. You mentioned talking to players already at TFC. It's been an up and down season for them. What have they told you that has made things a little different, a little bad for them so far, and how do you think you can fix it?
Yeah, I mean, I've spoke with one player at TFC, that's it, because he was a Canadian men's national team player. So, you know, letting him know yesterday that, you know, I'll be leaving my post, but letting him know how excited I was to take over here. He knows those conversations are coming. He's been a big part of my leadership group at the men's national team, and those conversations are coming. It'll be a huge part of what I hope the players feel and see, that, you know, they've got a coach that will really invest in the person, that really wants to understand their motivations and, you know, what they want to see for this club. So, I mean, I've got a runway now to really lay a foundation in them relationships, and that's the first thing I'll be going towards is I take over on October the 1st.
Hey, John.
Hey, James.
A couple of highly paid star wingers not performing this season. Can they be part of the solution under you?
I think there's an evaluation through this period of time. I mean, I think those players are massive parts of the TFC picture. That's a process that I'll be evaluating through my tenure. You know, I've got Jason Hernandez, who's had some deep experiences with these players as well. That'll be helping guiding what that roster will look like in the new season. But for me, it's a process now of really going towards understanding the antecedents behind the performances as we've seen, and ultimately, you know, the motivations of every player here, and to find out how committed people are to taking this club to the next level, because that's the demand, that's the expectation.
I'm just gonna, is there an advantage to you taking over this program now with just you know, a few games left in the season, with no pressure, it would seem, in those last few games that you're going to lead this team under? Is there an advantage to you taking it now as opposed to maybe in the off season or before the start of next season?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a huge advantage. You know, that first week on the job in October, we'll be breaking down the details, but that's a critical assessment period of the high-performance team, around the team. And then the steps to see these players, to see them in training, to see them around the environment, to start the process of conversations, knowing that, you know, they'll be out of potentially that playoff, I would assume, by then, if not already. But, you know, for us, we were very process orientated. There's a group of us that'll be coming in with specific roles to really gather the information that's going to help us work with Jason and Bill to make the right decisions as we move into an off-season. So, you know, there's never no pressure because the players are going to be expecting, and we have to deliver. But at the same time, we'll sort of periodize that introduction to make sure we get what we need and understand everything we need before the close of that season. So I will get to see them in that competitive environment. I will get my hands on them, you know, in training environments, in match days. And, you know, that we all know that's the moment you really will learn about these players.
John, I know how much messaging means to you. Bill went ahead and said in his release about you as a culture builder. There have been reports that came out this morning that there was a rift growing or breakdown of relationships, however you want to describe it, in that men's room. What's your comment on that? And what was it like ultimately as you were going through this process in terms of the resources that you did or didn't have with the Canadian Soccer Association, and how did that lend to your decision?
Yeah, I mean, I've got great memories with that team. I think you go through highs and lows, as every coach does. It's been a challenging experience and time with that group, for reasons a lot out of their control, potentially even out of the control of the coaching team. You know, a lot of impacts that you deal with that have got nothing to do with X's and O's or, you know, positional selections or unit relationships or even coach-player relationships. There's been a lot of, I'd say, noise that you've had to deal with. And I think with all of those elements, that's where this team are at currently, coming out at the back of a World Cup with, you know, labour disputes and, you know, deals that are, you know, individuals with deals that, you know, challenge the culture. It's not been easy, there's no doubt. But at the same time, you know, we're leading a team to its first Nations League final. You know, this last year, we, with what you would call that Canadian A team, we won 3, lost 1 before the Nations League final, and competing against, you know, arguably the strongest US team that the US have ever produced. And the strongest Canadian team has still got to get better. So I think with all the agendas at play, and I think you're well aware in the media of many of the agendas that are at play in the Canadian soccer landscape, I can walk away there proud with many memories, with some great relationships still intact, and excited for the future of Canada soccer, who have a 2026 World Cup and so much to look forward to and get excited about. So this is someone else's time now, and excited for that person, whoever it may be.
Hey, John, back here again.
Thank you.
So speaking of culture, what type of culture are you looking to build here at TFC?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at a winning culture. That's it. I mean, that's what TFC is here to do. It's a winning club. There's an expectation to win in this city. And for the fans, the staff, the players, you know, it's inculcating that winning culture, the culture that you've seen either in the Canadian women's team or the Canadian men's team, that sisterhood, that brotherhood, that goes beyond the field, that family dynamic that, you know, gets players trusting each other, you know, making each other feel safe to rise to performance levels that weren't expected. So, you know, we have a very deliberate way of building culture. When you think of some of the people that we'll bring into this environment, like Robin Gale, who was a critical part of the cultural build on the women's and the men's side, it's very deliberate. And there's a special type of person that we look for to be part of that. You know, a little bit different to the national teams. You know, with the national teams, you work with the people you have in front of you. There's not much choice in that. Those players, if they're the best players, are coming back time and time again. But I think at the club level, you can really identify the type of people that will fit the winning culture here at TFC. And, you know, I think with Jason, that'll be a big part of the conversations we have. And with the quality of people like Robin Gale, you know, they'll be working to bring a real organized structural approach to that cultural development, which I think many clubs do ignore. It's a daily process to establish routines, rituals that keep teams together.
Sean, how does the next month look in terms of how it's going to work with Terry? Will you be hands off? Does he just have control of the team? Will you be sort of talking to him on a regular basis in terms of what you want to see? And is there a place for him on your staff? I mean, we spoke to him earlier today, and he talked about the profound effect that you've had on his career. I just wonder if you see any sort of value in keeping him part of your staff.
Yeah, I mean, for the first month, you know, part of the transition out of Canada soccer, that's a really important part of, you know, putting it down better than you found it. And I certainly know when I entered the men's program, you know, there was some things that needed to have been left behind, and there's a group of staff that'll be working for the next 3 weeks alongside Mauro Biello to ensure that, you know, he has what he needs, and the organizational knowledge is located, organized in ways that people can use it to the best of their abilities. So there's a period of time where, you know, we'll be handing over at Canada Soccer. Things have moved very quickly there. And at the same time, you know, a little bit of, you know, personal development for myself. I've got some things targeted that'll help put me in a stronger position moving into this role. And then with Terry, I mean, Terry will be, you know, leading the team until, you know, the moment that I'll put my hands on that wheel towards the end of the season. And he's been a great custodian. I think he's built some great relationships in the locker room, and I'll be relying on that. Those experiences he's had. I mean, he was part of that Qatar staff and a big part of the lead into the World Cup qualifying as well. So, you know, Terry will be part of the TSC first team staff moving forward, and really looking forward to working with him and the many others that are going to be part of that team.
John, you before invited your national team players to test themselves out in Europe and not be afraid of the challenge. Will you change your tune now that you have different interests to tackle? I know that Bill mentioned you wanted about 5 national team players on a team for 2026, something like that. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, my stance won't change on that. I mean, I've had that, you know, Canadian blood running through my veins for the last 12 years. I mean, this team needs to produce more Tier 1 players more consistently to compete at the highest level, and I've lived it. You know, I've lived the difference between having 4 Tier 1 players on your team and 17. So I know for Canada, they're going to be seeded nicely at that World Cup, and, you know, at least for the group stage, they might not need that, but if they fill the dreams of pushing to a quarter-final, semi-final in a home World Cup, they're going to need the Tier 1 players, and I see Toronto FC as being a big part of that evolution. I think the academy here will keep growing and developing to provide the conveyor belt. We have to. I think for Canada, we always need, particularly for the next few years, is to springboard these players at the best opportunity into Europe. And, you know, working with Bill and Jason, I'll be supporting Canada Soccer 100% to help springboard young Canadian players to that next level in football. That's critical. But at the same time, not disrespecting that this league has so much to offer. You know, some of these players will get a chance to play against Messi in the coming weeks, months and years. There's not many leagues that'll offer that opportunity. So, you know, my philosophy won't change there. I think it's important that we give young Canadians the best chance to reach the highest levels in sport. And that's my job as a coach, to develop people to get them to that next level.
Hey, John. Regarding personnel, will you have final say on that, or is it Jason as general manager? Can you talk about how that will work together?
Yeah, I mean, I see it as that partnership. I mean, the exciting thing for me is I've got Jason in there as a GM who has got that level of experience in MLS as a player and various roles in the organization. So we're relying on, Jason and his knowledge, but also, what I'm hoping we bring is the specificity of the profiles that we're looking for. From the analytics to the data points that fit into our tactical blueprint. And I think that's a level of organization that's going to be key for this partnership to be effective, and I think something that Jason's really excited about.
Do you have any more questions? Nope. So before we have enough? No? We're going to do the photo op with Jason Hernandez and Bill Manning. For the photographers, let's not block the cameras on the back. And then we will have President Bill Manning and General Manager Jason Hernandez available for scrums if you are interested.